What's going on? I've been working out some mic settings today, trying to figure out whether or not I can actually make this viable. We'll see. What I would like to start doing is creating a process by which I can be some sort of accountability buddy for people who are lapsing into despair. I'd like my life to be of some use while I'm here, and I'm sort of reaching out through the void into the void to see if you're there. And if you're experiencing something resembling inner turmoil, which if you are, join the club. We all are. As volatile extensions of a volatile earth, despite the fact that it's confounding and awe-inspiring and it's a miraculous ecosystem, it's a volatile place with storms and lightning and floods and earthquakes, and we are but extensions of it. So we will have our own tempestuous and conflicted nature. If you're there right now, I'm reaching out to you. If you choose to spend your time with me, maybe we can help each other. Who's to say? So let's talk about grace. Grace. It's a very difficult thing to achieve. You can express grace toward another, toward a human being, a four-legged creature. But in order to express anything effectively, it's as though you first have to process it and understand it to enough of an extent within yourself. So you have to be able to supply some forgiveness and grace to yourself. And that's the challenge we all have, because we carry our skulls around on a 24/7 basis, which provides us with that turmoil. We are aware of all the awful, stupid, lackluster, half-assed things we've done throughout our life. And we're stuck with ourselves. The past that we have created, we have to carry around with us and live out the continuation of, whether or not it met our expectations. And it strikes me that as we go about this life, a lot of people say they're looking for happiness. I don't feel that's accurate. What we are looking for is peace, is a way to achieve something authentic within the realm of peace. And grace is one of the ways in which we can work toward that. Whether or not we can achieve it, I'm not even sure. Because we're talking about concepts, and concepts are very much ideals. An ideal is worked toward but never achieved. And it has its utility. By aiming up, looking forward, by striving toward an ideal, you have better chances and will believe in yourself more than the alternative. So how do you get to that notion of grace? I've found some help in looking at life in terms of a great balancing act. How you're trying to achieve a balance between what is intellectual, physical, emotional. You could say there's a romantic aspect. I don't know what romance is even. That's kind of flighty, but hey, there we go. And it's very difficult to achieve. Financial, it's difficult to achieve. And I know of a guy who's a friend of a friend, lives in Michigan. He's got an incredibly successful construction business. He's doing really well financially. He's got 2 kids he loves, dresses well. Just seems really one of those put-together guys. And if you saw him from the exterior, you'd be like, oh, well, he really made the right decisions and choices. Well, he's going through an excruciating divorce right now. Excruciating. And apparently it's having a dramatic effect on his life in its entirety. So balance is very difficult to achieve, and nobody is succeeding 100% at any given time. I don't care who they are. If you could look into the internal myriad mix-upness of any celebrity or people who are extremely wealthy, you would find that they are dealing with their own fears and their own turmoil. Maybe you've gotten this too. I get this feeling, especially since I've reached my 40s, where I'm just outrunning something. And it's most likely death. But moreover, it's probably all the accumulated sadness and disappointment and disillusionment. And it's only when I sit down and do the proper investigating, it's only when I sit down and tune in and really face whatever it is I might be sweeping under the rug or avoiding or running from, that I realize it's more complex than the beast I may have seen it as, the dark monster. It's not necessarily that. It's a lot of feelings. It's a lot of crushed hopes and a lot of, as I said before, sadness. And too often in this current age of digital advancement and constant distraction, we have very little incentive to go to that place. It's not going to feel good. It's painful. But by going there, you may find that you're a better person than you thought you were. That's probably the case. So if you're in inner turmoil, join the club, and you're probably a better person than you realize. Now, there are people out there, they could say, I don't have anybody. You have yourself. You have yourself. That's all you're ever going to have anyway. You know how many people jump in and out of relationships? I've had my own codependent issues over the years, and I'm still working them out. But how many people jump in and out of relationships because they don't want to be alone? And often they say, I don't want to die alone. It's like, you're going to die alone. I hate to break it to you. No one's coming with you. Unless you're strangling them as your heart stops beating. You're not taking that journey together. Your shell will cease of its own accord, on its own, and nobody's coming with you. And you could say, well, I want to be surrounded by my loved ones. Well, what good does that do you if you've got 2 marbles left in your head and you're pissing yourself constantly? I mean, all you have is you. All you have is you. And you're still going to be dying and leaving that room full of people. You. There is no one to hold your hand. It's you end up leaning on. And the only way you can do that is by attempting to understand where you're coming from, accepting yourself. I'm not saying unbridled loving yourself. I don't know that we're ever in love with ourselves. Those that claim to be are most likely delusional and living in a state of denial of their own sort. But to accept and acknowledge ourselves, provide some grace, because there is only so much you can achieve in a single day. Now, you can make adjustments over time. I know that I don't waste my time like I did 2 or 3 years ago. My morning, 2 or 3 years ago was spent in idle, staring at the phone as soon as I woke up, and then 30 minutes later feeling lethargic and already feeling the panic of having wasted my time. And now I pull myself out of bed. I make sure I get a full minute of natural light. Go take care of I live on a farm here, farm sanctuary, so it's a rescue. We don't slaughter these animals. And I go help take care of some of the animals, and then I do some yoga, and I take a cold blast. I'm in the freezing cold water for about a minute straight or more. I do that every single morning, no matter what. And it's extraordinary because it oxygenates the brain. This is what I've heard. I just like the way it jolts me out of myself. And it can be also very helpful to say positive chants to yourself while the cold water is hitting you because you're in a state of excitement and a state of apex. And that took time. It takes time to pivot and shift and change. But what other option do you have? If you only have you from cradle to grave, it's only you, and no one's going to hold your hand. If it's only you from cradle to grave, and this is the only option you got, then do something with it. And provide yourself with some grace. And just keep trying. Let us all just keep trying. And when we fall short, let us lick our wounds in a way that's not destructive or self-victimizing or futile or lapsing into despair. Now, the beauty of this is that every day is in effect an opportunity. It is. And I know people get down on positive thinking because it's reductive and overly simplistic, and it doesn't tell the whole story. There's a lot of holes to it. But there's a beauty in all of this because no side is ever 100% wrong due to the imperfection of humanity. No side you disagree with is ever 100% wrong about everything. There's no way they could be. They're certainly not 100% right about everything, but they're also not 100% wrong. So when people come to you, and I speak to people who ward off depression, who ward off a sense of existential futility in their lives, a lot of the positive thinking is something you're going to shy away from and push away because it just doesn't register. And when these people come to you and say, fake it till you make it, That's a very complex system that's been watered down over time so that it's kind of lost all meaning in the adage itself, in the cliche. I think, moreover, what it's speaking to is the very gradual, extraordinarily painstaking, repetitious act of policing and parenting yourself to the extent that you, over time, can make a habit out of doing things that initially you would have done almost anything not to do. Things that work towards your benefit. So, fake it till you make it is essentially saying, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Do it even though you don't want to, which is something we make little kids do. Do this even though you don't want to. It's good for you. And you can do that. You can do that. Even if you're depressed, lapsing into despair, you can make several changes today. Not just one. You can make several. You have it in you. We all do. And I hope you can believe in yourself. I hope that you give yourself half a chance and know that you're a work in progress. And you may have made terrible mistakes. I know I have. But you can keep going. Find some meaning in that. And try to do some good with whatever time you have left. All right. Kissy kissy.